Thank you, Ralph, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'll just take us through what is the community cafe and why we have the community cafe. But I think the question we usually have when we hear the statistics that Ralph just shared is like, what do we do about it? How do we respond to this statistics and the things that we are seeing? And one thing about the community cafe is we asked ourselves, like, we can see people around us who are asylum seekers, people who definitely are going through struggles and they just come into the UK. What can we do about it? So we started the community cafe in 2021, and it's a partnership, as Ralph mentioned earlier, between two churches. That is HTB Church, where I work, and it's located in South Kensington in London, and Hillsong Church. And we started as a one-off event. It was the winter of 2021. It's cold, and we decided to kind of have like packages to take them to the hotels and to just help and support them. But when we went there, we gave them about 4,000 packages. Then we realized that what asylum seekers needed the most was more than just packages. They don't just need packages of food, they need a community. So we started the community cafe, which is a safe place for asylum seekers to find belonging. And most times what asylum seekers feel like data. What Ralph just said, like everywhere you go, everyone asks you like, what's your name? What's your age? Where are you going? All these different questions. And for us, we felt, how about we turn that around and created a place where they felt like friends. They felt like they have some form of identity. So the asylum, the Monday evening cafe, we meet from 6:30 to 9 p.m. And when we started, we were about 30 to 40 asylum seekers. And at the moment, we are ranging between 150 to 180 guests per week. When we meet at the asylum, at the community cafe, what happens is we set up tables of 8 people per table. Each table will have 2 volunteers and 6 guests. And on the tables, the volunteers host the asylum seekers. And the aim of hosting the guests is to have conversations and help them to improve their English. We also have card games. Some of the volunteers, some of the asylum seekers would not particularly want to engage in conversation. So we have card games that they play. We also have other activities. From 8 p.m. we have a hot meal, and other activities include, we have haircuts. On Mondays, they can come and have free haircuts. They can come and receive SIM cards. So, of course, it's very hard when you come into the UK and you don't have a form of communication. So we give them free SIM cards that are loaded with airtime and data that lasts for about 6 months. We also offer clothes. So that's on the practical side. That's kind of like a small recap of what the community cafe is. But you might ask why. Why would we have the community cafe? I think for us, both Hillsong and HTB, we are religious organizations. We are Christians, and we are driven by our love for, not just our love for God, but our love for people as well. And so we felt there are so many. I mean, it's quite terrifying when you think about all these numbers that Ralph mentioned. But we thought, how can we play a small part to kind of bring love close to people, to make people feel loved? And it comes from the Bible, and our philosophy comes from the Bible, and it's what Jesus says in Luke 4:18. And the scripture says, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because He has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor, and to help give freedom to the prisoner." So we felt perhaps there is more that we can do, and we can collaborate with people like Religions for Peace and people around us to kind of just bring love to the people around us. So that's our why. And when we think of the community cafe, I don't know what comes to your mind, but when we think of the community cafe, we think of a family, we think of a home. And I don't know what the word home or family comes to your mind when you think about that. Because personally, if you haven't noticed from my accent, I'm from Nairobi in Kenya. And I came to the UK voluntarily to work here. But for the asylum seekers, they do not come here by choice. They move from the UK to the UK and other places from their homes because of one reason or another. So for them, they might be here, but they don't feel like they are home. And so the community cafe exists to bring asylum seekers the feeling of being home, finding a place, a community where you can belong. Now, when you think of a family, I wonder what comes to your mind. For many of us, you might say love, respect, honor, dignity, fun, unity, a place where you belong, relations, perhaps you might say support, joy, laughing together and crying together. And so we asked ourselves, how can we create a space where when you come, how it feels and sounds and looks like and tastes like home, a place where we celebrate everyone and we love everyone. We make sure that they find dignity and respect and joy and love and belonging and support through everything that they go through. So we then started the community cafe. And in one of the ways that we create a home for them is we cook food that is culturally relevant to them. And we've split it in 4 different ways. So the first week we cook food, Persian food, so from Iran. The second week we cook food from Latin America, I believe. And then on other weeks we cook food from, we make food from falafel, which is more from the Middle Eastern culture and all that. So we kind of bring home closer to them through, the food, through music. We had a cultural night last year when we had a band from Sudan performing. We also bring, what not just the music and the food, but also the people that most of our volunteers would know how to speak some of the languages that our asylum seekers speak. So they come and join them in kind of, on the tables, interpreting and teaching them English. Lastly, just to give you a summary of what the vision of the community cafe is, we've broken this in 4 different values. And one of the things that we want the community cafe to be is inviting. We want the community cafe to invite everyone to come and join. So we go into hotels and we move, word of mouth and every way that we can get to kind of invite everyone to come and belong. The second one is to include. It's not just to invite, but also to include. We want to include our asylum seekers in activities that we partake as a community cafe. So they're not just being invited to kind of just sit, but we include them in everything that we do. We've taken them to the beach before. We've played sports with them. So we want to invite, we want to include, but we also want to involve. From the picture that I think it was the first picture that Ralph shared, or maybe it was Eda, you could see there was a lot of volunteers from the community cafe. And basically, some of the volunteers are actually asylum seekers who joined us a year ago. And they're not just included. They don't just feel invited and included, but I think the aim for us is for them to be empowered in such a way that they are not just dependent and kind of just receiving handouts, but they're able to be equipped to serve others and be involved in some of the activities. And lastly, I think the end goal of the cafe is to integrate. We want people that at the end of the time with us, once they get their their refugee status, they're able to kind of be sustainably live in the UK, which is quite a different culture from where most of them are coming from. So I'll share a summary of those 4 things that I've mentioned. So inviting, including, involving, and integrating. Now, just to finish, I think the reality is we are surrounded by brokenness in the world, but the good news is that we feel we carry love inside of us. And so I think the challenge for you as I share why the community cafe is, I can ask you a few questions. It's like, you have this love in your hearts. Are you willing to allow your hands to carry the hope? And these are some of the questions that we have asked ourselves. Are we willing to extend our hand instead of, pointing fingers? Are we willing to include people from different communities? And when the world closes in on asylum seekers, are we willing to open our hearts and invite them into our spaces? So that's why the community cafe, it's a place for asylum seekers to feel safe, to feel empowered, to feel like they have dignity and that they are beyond data, and to give them a little feeling of home, right? So yeah, that's kind of that was my section. I don't